Hey Matt,
Hi, Don.
in what setting were you guys when you first talked to the team or a large group once that decision was made to play, and what was the reaction?
Yeah, team meeting this morning, Don, at 8:30 was the first time I had a chance to address them because the news came out. We had already broken for the night. We had an early night last night, so the news was given to me by my daughter when I got home. She read it off of Twitter, which is so reliable. So got that information from her right when I pulled in, and then got a chance to address our team this morning. Guys are excited. They really are. They want a chance to go out and compete. I think they believe in what we're doing here at Texas Tech in terms of the safety and the health and all the protocols that our medical staff, led by Grant Stovall and Dr. Fye and Drew Kruger, our trainer, have put out, and they're ready to go. They're excited, and so what we do right here is we kind of revamp our thinking here in training camp, just because we had changed it a little bit a few days ago to kind of wait on some decisions, and so I like where our guys are at right now in their mindset. They're excited, Don.
Commissioner Bowlesby said earlier today that determining what the criteria should be for canceling or postponing a game if there's a virus outbreak, that's still to be determined. He also said that coaches' input had kind of been solicited. Do you have any particular thoughts on what's the propriety of when you should cancel or postpone a game?
Yeah, that was part of our last phone call as coaches in the Big 12, and there were a couple models presented, and I think that that's something that certainly we have to come to a conclusion as a conference. I'm not sure the head coaches are making the final decision on that. In fact, I'm certain that we're not. But to give a proposal and give our thoughts, we do. There's got to be a certain amount, where that number is or the percentage of your roster, and it's got to be your active roster, the guys that are actively playing, and maybe it's your travel roster or something, Don. But there's some. We need to get to the bottom of that and get to the bottom of it fairly quickly.
We'll go to Sean Dillon.
Coach, two questions. Now that the Big 12 has answered the question about a season, what are your thoughts or concerns on the Big 12's COVID testing protocols and the protocols thereafter a positive test has been made?
No, I think the measures of testing and testing multiple times, it looks like, I think we're all in favor of that. We want to return our players each and every week to the practice field in a safe and healthy manner. We want to make sure that they're going into the games safe in a negative, Sean. And then I think the last thing you want, what it is too, is it's confidence for our players, and I'm sure opposing players, knowing that the team on the other side is adhering to the same protocols that you are, and they're all negative as well. And so I think we're all for that, and that's the environment we want to be in.
And Coach, can you talk about the impact that Coach Tommy McVay has had on you and the Red Raider program?
Yeah, Tommy, guys, Tommy, I met Tommy within the first, little bit that I was here. He was the first guy that I met as soon as I walked into this football facility. A big smile, handshake, and a hug, and it never changed. Every morning he'd come in, he comes in and says, "How's my coach?" and gives me a fist bump every morning. The impact, I can't even talk about the impact that he's made in this Red Raider community, the community of Lubbock, West Texas, all the way down to Midland. Tremendous impact. Coaches, players, people, families, parents of our players here. Tommy McVay is Texas Tech football. He is Mr. Red Raider. I hired him. Not many people know this. I hired him within the first 5 minutes of meeting him. Walked him, met him. We talked. We talked about Oklahoma and Kansas high school. Had some mutual friends. Went into his office. I said, "Show me your office." We went through all the pictures on the wall. If you guys ever been in Tommy's office, he's got pictures back to when dirt was invented. And so you just kind of look around, and we listened and we talked, and I think he was contemplating retirement, at that point. And I said, T-Mac, I need you. Give me a few years and help me turn this thing around, and help me with the alumni and the boosters, and introduce me to everybody. And I'm going to tell you, there's not a better encourager that I've ever met in my life than Tommy McVay. There's not a better proponent, very outspoken proponent of our staff, me, since we've been here in December of 2018 than Tommy McVay. To the high school community, to Red Raider alumni, to boosters, the guy put a smile on everybody's face.
Go to John Sokoloff.
Hey, Matt, how's it going?
Hi, John.
So you briefly mentioned it earlier, but, kind of that mindset of, what's it kind of like to finally have this clarity of no more, because Keith was talking about the other day how well your guys have been doing when it comes to, just like being mature and only controlling what you can control. And I get it, but how nice is it now to finally be like, okay, like everything's clear, like this is our schedule, this is who we're playing, and that's it. We're rolling with this thing.
Yeah, it is nice because it's not just clarity, it's a target. The target date, September the 12th. You know who the first opponent is 2 weeks later in the Big 12. It's just clarity. It's a target. You've been on Zoom calls, John, oh my gosh, since March, mid-March. And we talk about controlling everything that we can control, and that's mainly our attitude and our effort. That people, everybody every player, every coach in the Big 12 had two things in common. You had quarantine because of the coronavirus, and the second thing you had in common was time. And what are you going to do with that time as a coach and as a player? And I think we spent it very, very well, invested in each other, spent a lot of time, FaceTime, Zoom calls, all that stuff. And I think our relationships were deeper. And then as you get into the summer and the volunteer times, it's still unsure. And I tell you what, I think that's probably the biggest thing anybody outside this complex probably underestimates, to be honest with you, is the stress and the mental weight of not knowing for our 18 to 24-year-olds, let alone, our coaches as well, but mainly for our players. And those men just grinding and going to work every day. At some point, it just gets very heavy. And so the decision to play, I know, lifted and a lot of that, all of that. And, I think that's the thing that people outside the complex don't really understand. And, these guys they're excited to play.
Go to Billy Watson.
Hey, Coach, how's it going?
Good, how are you, man?
Good. Just wanted to get your opinion on the schedule. It's revised and everything. You don't get the Baylor Thursday night game anymore, obviously. And now you get UT in a sort of back-to-back game. Now that you ended it with them last year, and now you start off with them. How do you feel about the new schedule?
Yeah, I think it gives us a great opportunity. There's a few things in there I really like. I like where the bye weeks fall. I've looked at it, glanced at it. Be honest with you, I haven't studied it yet, haven't had time. But we'll get ready for Houston Baptist here in Jones on September the 12th. And then, obviously, our guys know Texas is coming down up here to Lubbock, not down. I'll learn geography in the state of Texas at some point. I guess they got to go north. So, that'll be a big game. Our guys will be ready to play. That'll be fun.
Go to Jarrett Johnson.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Good, Jarrett. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, have y'all been in full pads yet? When is that out?
We have not been in full pads yet.
What are you looking forward to once y'all do get to full pads?
Who can make plays with the ball in their hand. There's a lot of tackles being made right now without full pads on, if you catch my drift. Running backs they become real running backs when the pads come on. O-line, D-line, better evaluations, linebackers, tackling, those kind of things. But, from an offensive standpoint, I think it's probably got to focus on the running backs. That'll be the biggest thing.
Go to Max Olson.
Coach, appreciate you doing this.
What's up, man?
The Big 12 said today, testing 3 times a week during the season. Just in the few months you've gone through this, kind of how do you feel about where you're at with testing capacity and turnaround and all that stuff? Because it's obviously going to be so important each week.
Yeah, Max, great question. And I think, across the country, that's a big variable, right? What city you're in, the supplies, the turnaround time. Our people here in Lubbock, our medical team, when I say team, it's outside this complex too. They've been great. They've been really good, and the ladies and the gentlemen that come here to test us early in the morning, and they do a great job. I mean, they stick that thing way too far up there, but they do a really good job. And you know what? They're giving of their time, and they're very, very supportive of us. So I commend everybody here in Lubbock and our medical staffs. But you do recognize that it is a variable that may be different in other cities. I recognize that. But I think we're very thankful here at Texas Tech and in Lubbock.
Go to Stephen Hawkins.
Hey, Matt, I've been in Texas 21 years, and my geography's still out of whack anyway. So.
Okay.
Hey,
Thank you.
You talked about a minute ago that you got some clarity now. One thing Bob Bowlesby said today, we have clarity, but obviously with this situation, there's no certainty because you don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
How do you kind of approach that? And
Yeah.
you've got 2 Power 5 conferences that aren't even playing. So, how do you kind of approach that?
Well, Stephen, I'll approach it this way, is that we're going to do our very best to stay as disciplined as we can in terms of our football bubble. And our football bubble is from, our players and our coaching staff and all the support. Matt Dowdy, his staff, they've all got to be disciplined when they leave the complex. That's it. So I think, and you've got to put yourself in a lot less situations to contract it. Okay. Now, that being said, we're going to have some positives. We've had some, in fact, the vast majority, if not almost all of them, ours were on the very front end. We've done a really good job since we've been back here in Lubbock, but I know there's going to be some. And I've talked to our players about this. Just because you test positive does not mean that you're undisciplined or you are lackadaisical. It's a virus. It's invisible. You can't see it. You don't know how you're contracting it. But you got to do your very best with the masks, sanitize, small groups, et cetera, et cetera. I think we just do that. And then, Stephen, we live with the results. And you know what? If we have too many that test positive and we have some close contacts and we're not able to play, we're not able to play. And if maybe our opponent. And you know what? It's at that point that you learn to how to control your mind and how to control your emotions, okay? It is what it is. Hey, let's look at it on the bright side. We got 4 more days to rest up or heal up, and then let's get ready for the next game and let Kirby and the administration figure out when we're going to replay that. And I mean that very, very sincerely, and there's things that are out of our control, and we'll just deal with them as they come. But I think for me, the game plan has been very transparent with our players. We talk, we're very, very open, and I tell them it's probably going to happen at some point, and we're not going to overreact. And we have a plan for who's next. We have a plan for our staff. We have a plan for the support staff. We have a plan for the next signal caller. We have a plan for, when we get to that point, the players don't know that depth chart yet, but we'll have a plan, and we'll go out and then we'll execute it. And you know what? You understand that your opponents may be having to do the same thing too.
Go to Ronald Clark.
Sort of a 2-part question. Going back over to the schedule, obviously, with that shortened season and obviously one non-conference game doesn't allow for much time to sort of, really get into play. And then right off the bat, you guys started off conference against the rival Texas for the first time since 2010. Really gives you that chance to set the tone for the conference. What does that do for not only, you guys, but the players as well? How exciting does that make this season? And also the second part to that, do you like that, starting off against your rival, or would you rather play them at the end of the year when you're really surging?
Well, I'm going to answer it It's not coach speak. It's real talk. I didn't have anything to do with it. So we knew the schedule was going to get jumbled up, and we were ready. I mean, it's 1 out of nine opponents. I knew it probably wasn't going to be Iowa State. It wasn't a real good chance it was going to be them. Even though we had, spent more time on them and maybe game planned them in our first 5 or 6 opponents. But, we finished with Texas last year. That's fairly fresh on our minds in a personnel stance, or a personnel sense, 2 new coordinators. So when that time comes, we'll worry about Texas, okay? And we will game plan Texas, and we'll be ready to play Texas when they come into Lubbock. I promise you that. Right now, the focus is on Texas Tech. It's on us. Here in a couple, 2.5 weeks, we'll turn the focus to Houston Baptist, and I mean that sincerely. And our players know that. We talked about it just a few minutes ago post-practice.
Go to David Collier.
All right, I'm unmuted. All right, happy belated 72nd birthday, Coach.
Thank you. Really?
But hey, that David Yost said it was 72nd. I'm just.
Yost said that?
Yeah.
I
want to talk to him a little bit.
For the record, I still can't catch him. That ought to tell y'all something.
That's why he's confident enough to say that.
Yes.
Did you notice a pep in the step? I know you guys are excited to be out there practicing, but it was a little different today after meeting with the team and getting the good news. Yeah. I think it does. Does good for everybody. There's a pep in their step, a little bit more of a spark in their eye, and I think again, you have a target date, right? You have an opponent. You always know when the next opponent is. In football, I've known it ever since I was 16 years old, sophomore in high school at Sallisaw. You knew all off season, summer, who was opponent number 1, and we knew for a long time it was UTEP. And when that got taken away and there's no first opponent and you're not real sure, that's where all the uncertainty comes in for the coaches and for the players. And so certainly good to know who the first one is. And one last one for me. I don't think we had a chance to ask you since practice has started. Has anybody opted out at this point since you guys started working out?
No, we don't have anybody opted out. Quan Watts is at home in Atlanta, actually recovering from COVID-19 with his mom and aunt. So as of right now, no one's opted out for COVID.
Go to Carlos Silva.
Hey, Matt, you kind of mentioned it earlier on, but I guess just in terms of the mental aspect of what this has been doing for either the coaches or the players, I guess how have you kind of dealt with that, or what are some things the university or athletics has been able to do to kind of help some guys that maybe are kind of feeling the mental strain of all this?
Well, I think, our trainers do a great job. Dr. Bradstreet, Tyler Bradstreet, who's our sports psychologist here in our athletic department, those guys do a good job. They're available at all times. Our players, I really don't even know when they go in there. But I know that there's a lot of conversation. Some of it is for sports enhancement or sports performance enhancement, and I'm sure there's other reasons at time too. But I think just Carlos being real with them, and our coaches having the relationships that we're trying to have and that we do have, and just staying in tune with your players. What's going on back home? How is your family? Because that puts extra stress on players too.
Go to Max Olson, then we'll end with Jarrett Johnson.
Yeah, Matt, just waiting for kind of the verdict last night. I'm sure there's probably a little anxiety that comes with that. Do you hope that we've sort of settled this for the next 30 days, that this decision isn't getting revisited every few days or every week?
Max, that's what we'd all like. Let's just play ball. There's still some work to do, right? In terms of finalizing all the medical protocols and everything. Let's get that finalized. Let's get what's the percentage of how many people it takes to not play a game. Let's get that done. Let's get the eligibility piece for our players figured out. How many games over and under, and if they can save a year, et cetera. How about the red shirt How does this affect the redshirt kids that still have red shirts available? Let's get all that figured out. We need to do that. Our conference does, our administration, coaches, any part that we can do to help. We need to get that done, finalized, and then let's really focus on, the things that is going to take to get us through the season, which is, the first big thing is return to school. With all the students coming back and the challenges that presents in terms of this virus, the discipline of our players and the things that we need to do right once we leave this complex. And then we're preparing for the season. And then, Max, there's going to be some curveballs thrown. Sit on your back foot, angle your bat, pick up the red dot, drive that thing to right center. And we're all gonna face some curveballs.
Go to Jared.
Tadlock would love that, wouldn't he?
Hey, Coach, you mentioned Watts being in Atlanta. Is there a target date? Is he expected to return?
I don't know, Jarrett. It's all health related with him and our trainers. I don't have a return date for him.
But you do expect him to return at some point?
As far as I know, yep.